Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm very excited to be joined today with Ali, who is a nutritionist and a longtime friend of mine. Ali, welcome.
Hello, Fee. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I wonder if you could just do a little intro about yourself and let our audience know a bit about you.
Okay, well, as you've already said, I'm Ali and I'm a registered nutritional therapist, accredited metabolic health practitioner and health coach. And I've been in practice since 2013, and I nurture people to reclaim their health, regain confidence in their body, feel empowered, and reverse their chronic disease.
Amazing. Thanks, Al. So let's dive into this huge topic. So, Al, when we're stressed or upset, why do we often crave sugary or carb-heavy foods specifically?
Because that's the way the manufacturers design it. They have scientists specifically to look for the bliss point in those products. So when we're craving foods, we're not craving natural foods, we're craving ultra processed foods most of the time. And those ultra processed foods are designed to have you hooked from the first bite. So they have a scientist or a team of scientists who behind the scenes, you think products are made, you think food is made in a kitchen. It's not. It's more like a lab. So the team are looking for the exact quantity of fat, sugar, or carb.
That is really interesting and quite scary, actually. I think what really stuck with me with what you said is this is not a kitchen we're working in. This is like a lab, which is you're basically saying that these manufacturers are manufacturing food specifically to get us hooked.
Yes, they are, and they're laughing in our faces. You can hear it in the marketing slogans that they use. If they're actually laughing in our face, saying, "Once you pop, you can't stop," and we buy into it. We buy it. We think yum yum, but it's scary stuff, really. And it's not the it's not just the combination of fat, sugar, and salt, or when I say sugar, I mean carbs as well, because all carbs are broken down into sugar. So it's not just that combination, because these ultra processed foods come with all sorts of different additives and thickeners and stabilizers and all sorts of things added into the mix. And it's not food, it's food like products, and it confuses our brain. Our body is expecting food to come in, and instead it's got a food like product, and it's thinking, what do I do with this?
So Al, when I'm going to a shop and I'm doing my food shop and I'm looking at the back of the packaging, what is it that I actually need to be looking for?
Well, ideally, you wouldn't be buying stuff with a list of ingredients on there, really, because most of the stuff in the shops, I can't remember the figure now, but most of the stuff in the shops isn't real food. It's food like products, and you can tell by looking at the food label. If there's ingredients on there that you don't recognize, if it's not like the normal things that you'd have in your pantry or you'd have in your kitchen, then it's not a real food.
But Al, I mean, we live in this fast-paced society these days. I mean, people, I don't know many people that go home and cook things from scratch anymore, which means everybody is buying this processed food in some form.
Yeah,
That's
you're not
really
wrong.
worrying.
Yeah. And we've kind of lost the skill for cooking, and not only that we've lost the skills for cooking, but we're not prioritizing it. And it's not, food should be nourishment to the body. It should be the priority. Years ago, cooking was priority. We would prioritize that time to cook for our family and sit down as a family and eat as a family. And a lot of the time we're not doing that now. And I can't remember the exact number, but it's something like 60% of the food that we're eating, and don't quote me on that, but is hyper processed food. It's not real food. And of course, with that comes the mixed signals to the brain of what to do with this food-like product that we've given it. Even things like we'll cook a bolognese and we'll use a jar of sauce. What else is in that sauce? It's not just tomato. It's not just tomatoes, onion, and garlic, and a few herbs. You've got all sorts of things in there.
Wow. Yes. I mean, I'm terrible at this. I so often will just throw a jar into my food because it's quicker and it's easier. And I just think to myself, oh, it's just tomatoes. There's nothing much in it. What else could possibly be in there? But you're saying there is a lot of other things in there that we shouldn't be consuming.
And it's interesting, some people think, well, I'll go for the most expensive jar of tomato sauce. But that's not always, that doesn't mean to say it's any better. Sometimes it's even worse.
So I know, we so often will prioritize our exercise and go to the gym and we do all these things. But what you're saying is we really need to prioritize our food and our kitchen habits and being able to make things from scratch as well.
If we're doing all the right things, prioritizing exercise and yoga and whatever else it is, and then we're putting rubbish into our body, all our cells are built from the ingredients we put in there. So we can't expect healthy cells, healthy organs, healthy body if we're putting rubbish in. And we don't know that we're putting rubbish in. Yeah.
And how much of it do you think is contributed to the cost of things? You so often hear fresh stuff, or the stuff that you're supposed to be eating is a lot more expensive, so it's cheaper to buy this processed stuff. Is that, do you think that's an accurate statement?
I don't think it is always fair. You just got to look at the cost of crisps and cans of Coke. I mean, they're not cheap. If you're taking the rubbish out and you're adding in the real food, then it can be considerably cheaper.
So do you think it's an educational thing, that people don't actually, they don't know anymore what is good food and what is not good food? The reason why I say this is because I actually used to work with somebody, and she would, after she had had her lunch, she'd always say, oh, she's having her yogurt now. But it was a little trifle. It wasn't actually a yogurt. But in her head, she was having a yogurt. And so I always just found that really interesting, because a yogurt and a little trifle obviously are quite different. And so I wonder how much of it is that the education is not there in our schools, or just generally, to be able to help people make those right decisions.
I think it's a mixed bag. Part of it is that there's the lack of education there. I mean, when I was at school, we had home economics, where we were taught from scratch to cook. And it wasn't just, when cooking's done in school now, it tends to be baking rather than cooking food for meals. So we don't have home economics anymore, as far as I know. and also the healthy eating guidelines that are taught in school are based on the Eat Well guide, which is what Zoe Harcombe, who's talks a lot about, but she's expert in food, calls the Eat Badly guide, because it allows things like ultra processed food, and it's heavy on the whole grains and grains in general, which all break down into sugar. And once you've got a breakdown to glucose in the blood, you're obviously going to have the insulin spike that goes with that, and then the drop in blood glucose that follows that. So when you get a spike in insulin, that then ferries all the glucose to the cells to be taken up. It's your fat storage hormone, and then you get a drop in sugar in the blood, and that's when you can get a bit jittery and shaky after eating. So if you've got the national guidelines based on sugary, starchy foods and allowing ultra processed foods in there, with also emphasis on swapping natural fats to these highly refined seed oils that are, again, just the processing of them is just horrendous. It's starting off on a bad footing, really, isn't it?
Well, it is, because, if you have these people that are the face of good eating, so to speak, but actually what they're educating us about isn't necessarily the best, then, how does the general public really, how do they get to a space where they can make that right decision for themselves? Just seems a bit mad.
Which is why the emphasis should go back to cooking from fresh.
So obviously, if we cook from fresh, you're saying that our cravings will be less because we will be nourishing our bodies with the right things.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many times should you be? I mean, you hear some people that have 3 meals a day, some people have 5 meals a day, or some people have one main meal and then snack. There's so many different things that people do. What is the right thing to do?
I don't think there's a right or wrong. I would say that generally we don't need to be snacking all day. There's an issue going on. If we need to snack continually, we're not fueling ourselves properly. So 3 meals a day is good enough. You don't need snacks in between. If you're hunting around for snacks, then you're lacking in essential nutrients in the meals that you're having. But that's a generalization. Yeah, it's normally about lack of protein when you're
so
scratching
it's lack
around
of protein that makes you want to snack in between. Is that what you're saying?
A lot of the time, yeah. If you're having, if you're generally eating a whole food diet, so not lots of things out of packets, and you're cooking from fresh, and you're still scratching around in between meals, then generally it's because the meals that you're having aren't high enough in protein to nourish you, and your body will. Protein is so important that your body will keep wanting more until it gets that protein.
Okay, and that's when I presume we go to the wrong things by snacking, because our body then starts craving, and we just take it as a craving rather than understanding that it's we haven't sustained, rather than we haven't filled our body with the right nutrients.
Yeah, and women are notoriously bad at this.
Okay, so, why is that? Yeah. Why is that?
Because we think we're eating healthy. So, I've got a salad. and that salad will have a little bit of chicken breast, and oh, I'm being very virtuous, or I'm having a salad with chickpeas or whatever on it, or some hummus, but it's very low. Okay, it's got the micronutrients from the vegetables that you've got on the plate, but women need to be nourishing themselves properly with adequate amounts of protein and fat, natural fat.
Yeah, and I think often, you know, as a woman, you hear the word fat in food and you're like, oh, got to stay away from that. But it's really important.
It scares women. Yeah, it scares women because they think they've been told for so long that fat makes them fat. So they stay away with it and they have low fat. But of course, you need fat to absorb the fat soluble vitamins in the food that you're eating. So if you've got a low fat meal, you're then going to be not absorbing the nutrients that you're eating.
It's social media and society, isn't it? They've put these things into our heads, and it's very hard to make those changes when you've just been brought up in that sort of environment constantly.
One thing we're not told is adequate, especially when we get into perimenopause and menopause time. We need enough protein to keep our bones strong. Going back to the fat, women thinking that it's, you know, they've got to stay away from fat because it's going to make them fat. Insulin is the fat storage hormone. So if you can keep insulin down with what you're eating, you're less likely to store fat. And insulin is spiked when you eat lots of carbohydrates and lots of sugar. So by having that protein and that fat in the meal, with natural whole foods, you're less likely to be causing that insulin spike that's going to make you store the fat.
So if you had to give somebody, you know, one or two really good pointers to think about or to look out for when they're talking about their diet or their nutrition, what would that be?
Probably actually start with getting morning sunlight.
Why is that? What's that got to do with our diet, Al?
Well, it's got a lot to do with our hormones and our neurotransmitters, and these all have a knock-on effect, obviously, with what we're then deciding to eat during the day. Because if we don't balance our hormones, we're then scratching around for snacks and food. So I would start first, because we're so dysregulated now, and we're, you know, stressed to the hilt, overworking, women especially, sorry, being bit making generalizations, but women don't prioritize their own needs. They always looking after other people, the carers, the healers. So they're not, by not prioritizing their own needs, they're not getting out for that early morning walk that's helping but it doesn't even have to be a walk in the morning, but getting that light early in the morning that sends messages to balance your circadian rhythm, and that has a knock-on effect with oxytocin, various different hormones, so oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, cortisol, melatonin. So it will tell your body. Everybody's probably heard of cortisol, I would have thought. So we tend to think of it as the stress hormone, but it's normal to have that rise in the morning. So what helps that rise in the morning is by getting the morning sunlight, because that stops the melatonin, which comes at night time, to help us sleep. So yeah. All,
So
and
then presumably if we start with the sun in the morning, and so it helps decrease that melatonin, presumably the melatonin then will pick up again in the evening when we actually want it to be able to help us sleep.
I mean, obviously, it's a good idea to get as much sunlight. It doesn't have to be sunlight, actually, just daylight at different times of the day. But particularly, you know, if you're really struggling to get outside because of your work or whatever, first thing in the morning for at least 20 minutes, ideal.
Amazing. That's a really good tip, Al. And one more.
Protein you need to be having protein at every meal. And that will depend on the person. And it's a lot more than you think it is. But basically, you eat to satiety. So satiety, by that I mean you feel comfortably full. And there is a big difference between feeling comfortably full with protein and comfortably full with carbs. You just got to think about how you feel after you've stuffed a massive great pizza in your tummy. You know, you've had that Chinese, so it's not a comfortable feeling, is it? You're stuffed, your belly hurts, you feel bloated. But when you eat protein, you don't get that feeling.
And that's interesting that you say that, because I'm not sure I have ever really paid that attention to it, to notice. I know I feel uncomfortable when I eat unhealthy food, but I'm not sure I've really noticed that I don't feel uncomfortable even if I have a big meal that's a healthy meal with protein, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's paying
paying
attention and being present to how your body feels when you finished a meal.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's about slowing down and actually taking notice, taking that time for you to notice how your body's feeling and reacting to what you're eating. So I had every so often there's a group of us get together for a takeaway around a friend's house. 4 times a year we all get together, and this time it was a Chinese, and in previous times, you know, I don't know, last year or whatever, I would try and choose low carb from the menus that we ordered from. But I realized last year that even when I do that, I don't feel great. I really don't feel great when I eat that food. So now I just take my food around there. And to some people that might sound, you know, a bit excessive and unrealistic. But it's about being more in touch with what you want, what your values are. And I want to nourish my body now. I want to look after my body. I abused my body for so many years with the fuel that I put in it. And I don't want to do that anymore because it doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah, that's so interesting, really interesting. And I think it is definitely about being more present, isn't it, with what your body's actually telling you. And so often, because we live in this society where it's just go, 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 I know I'm terrible at this. I will eat my food so quickly, and I'm pretty sure my body doesn't actually know when it's full or not, because I haven't given it time to even think that it's received any food before I'm up and moving on.
That's so common as well, Fee. And it's not just about the rushing and not giving the hormones enough chance to say, oh, you're full now. It's not just about that. It's about when you're eating in a stressed state, you're taking the blood supply away from the gut where it should be. So it's not digesting that food properly because your body now thinks it's in a fight or flight situation. So the it's got more pressing things to do because it's all stressed out, and it's not working on digesting the food. So that's going to affect your digestion as well. And
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, I'd never really thought about that, but that is so true. So you come away from eating this lovely meal and your stomach's most probably in a knot because it's not really, being able to digest what you've eaten properly because you're stressed and like you say, everything's directed to the places that you don't want it to be directed when you're actually eating.
To the muscles, running away from the bear, or
yeah. So Al, as we come to the end of our session, I just want to thank you so much for having this conversation with me because it's been so insightful. I really feel like I've learned quite a lot, and most probably going to look at food in a very different way. I think especially around my shopping and paying attention to what it is that I'm buying, but also the protein I think really stood out for me.
I just want to thank you, Fee, for having me on because it's been a wonderful chat. And as a final comment, I just want to say that we're not designed, or we shouldn't feel bloated and uncomfortable after every meal. And I think as humans, we tend to put up with a lot, and also we kind of shrug it off. But if you can slow down your meals and get in tune with what your body is saying, it will communicate a lot to you. And if you're feeling bloated and uncomfortable after your meals, then that's a clear signal that what you're eating isn't agreeing with you.
I love that. Yeah, that's so true. And in this fast-paced world that we live, it's hard sometimes to slow down, but so important. Oh, thank you so much. And if people want to get hold of you, what's the best way of them to be able to get hold of you?
My website is nutritionally.org. That's probably the best bet.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Al. I really appreciate it.